3 days after one of the biggest angles in Raw history to kick off the road to WrestleMania 18 with a 40-minute Rock vs nWo angle driving Raw to its most-watched broadcast in over 6 months. SmackDown on February 21 set for the follow-up of the storyline with the nWo now established on WWF television, in a rare situation seeing the company recapping it with a 13-minute video replaying the majority of the highlights from the all-time great segment on Monday night headlined by Hogan and Rock setting up the WrestleMania main event in Raw's most-watched segment since August 2001. Followed by the nWo coming out midway through the first hour to read an apology letter cleared by Vince McMahon's attorneys on the events of Monday night, bumping SmackDown over 1.3 million viewers, and from that point on no quarter on the show fell below 7.7 million viewers, interrupted by Steve Austin to start a show-long chase for the rest of the broadcast with Austin going after the nWo all over the Rockford Metro Center, on his show also promoting Undertaker vs Triple H as the top match of the night, seeing SmackDown on Thursday continuing the momentum from Monday night despite to one of its most-watched shows in the past year doing a 4.5 rating with 7.6 million viewers, peaking in the final quarter for the show-closing segment of Austin after locking Hogan and Nash backstage beating down Hall in the ring to continue the build to their WrestleMania match, drawing the show high 5 rating with over 8.4 million viewers. As with Rock now out of the picture for the next 2 weeks, the company would look to extend the wave of nWo momentum to next Monday after drawing the most-watched week of television in over 6 months for their Raw and SmackDown debut combining for over 14 million viewers. The nWo opened Raw for the follow-up promo on last Thursday, and after closing SmackDown with a massive audience of over 8.4 million viewers watching the final quarter, Hogan, Hall and Nash continued the momentum of strong numbers to tonight to open Raw huge with a 4.6 rating and over 6.2 million viewers, the highest-rated opening segment since last August and the biggest audience to watch Raw's opening quarter in over a year, as Hogan hyped a face-to-face confrontation with Rock despite him not scheduled to be on the show tonight, followed by Hall calling out Austin in response to Thursday's angle to challenge him to a WrestleMania match, with one of the big talking points coming out of SmackDown being Hall's condition after being involved in the beer angle with Austin, with Hall after taking an anti-alcohol medication that results in major side effects with any contact with alcohol for hours later, reportedly feeling ill at the SmackDown taping on Tuesday after Austin's beer during the angle was poured on him in the backstage skit and later in the ring, with him going forward either needing to time when taking it prior to the shows or not being involved with the Austin post-match beer segments from this point on. After a cooling-off period off television to recharge physically and mentally, the Hardys returned to the road full-time after the Rumble pay-per-view, and with them being placed in the opening match of the night starting at 9:18 p.m. for the tag titles against the currently most pushed team in the company in Billy and Chuck. The match wasn't the first television appearance for the Hardys on the night, with them featuring on NBC an hour earlier in a special WWF edition of Fear Factor, seeing the show, which outside of the Hardys featured Tess Beta, Jacqueline and Molly, drawing a 7.8 rating and a big spike over its usual average to one of the most-watched episodes of the season with over 12.9 million viewers, with the episode ending up unlike the Raw match, which saw Billy and Chuck retaining the titles, being won by Matt Hardy with Raw after the massive opening audience for the nWo promo in the first quarter, due to starting way bigger than usual, not seeing the usual viewing pattern of climbing throughout the first hour to stay in the 4.6 to 7 range for the rest of the hour, picking up slightly for the second half hour, first with a Steve Austin backstage promo responding to Hall's challenge to accept and officially set up the Hall vs Austin WrestleMania match, with Austin also set for a first-time ever match against Curt Hennig to headline the broadcast later tonight. And after setting up most of the top matches on the Mania card 3 weeks to the event, Raw next saw a three-way #1 contender match for the IC title shot with Van Dam going over Show and Storm to add Van Dam vs Regal for the pay-per-view. After the beer incident on Tuesday, Scott Hall made his WWF in-ring return for the first time in 6 years on Saturday in Buffalo, working his first matches against Austin on back-to-back nights Saturday and Sunday with Nash at ringside to start the preparation for their WrestleMania match, with both getting big reactions from the crowd to end with Austin going over followed by him laying out both Nash and Hall with stunners in the usual post-match house show routine. With the two events in Buffalo and Manchester continuing the huge merchandise figures since the nWo debuted in the company, with every show from last Sunday's No Way Out pay-per-view averaging over $10 per head in one of the strongest weeks of merchandise sales on the road since the peak of the boom period, with Raw's first hour driven by the massive opening for the nWo segment, seeing the 9 to 10 p.m. hour not only holding steady on the over 6-month high of last Monday but increasing further to 6.4 million viewers, Raw's most watched first hour since November 19, with Chris Jericho after joining forces with Stephanie last Thursday coming out for a promo 4 minutes from 10 p.m. for a segment scheduled to cross into the top of the hour quarter. With the background story for their upcoming title match being Triple H injuring his knee when attacking Jericho in May 2001, Jericho brought it up for the first time as a heel to build the heat on him as the one who took out Hunter for 8 months, showing the footage while responding to Hunter's shot of Jericho never beating him in a match, saying that instead he beat 8 months out of his career, bringing out Triple H for the response, with him and Stephanie exchanging shots with Hunter challenging Jericho for an impromptu match on the spot, interrupted by Curt Hennig to announce Vince booking Angle vs Jericho for the title for later tonight, with the promo segment taking place at the 10 to 10:15 p.m. quarter, peaking the night with a 5 rating. After the viewership and merchandise spikes since their TV debut, the nWo angle got another positive boost last Thursday, with Linda McMahon during the company's latest quarterly business report noted that first estimates on the No Way Out pay-per-view came in at 100,000 buys on the DirecTV system alone, with the show overall is tracking at around a massive figure for a B pay-per-view of around 550,000 buys, with Linda announcing the company reaching a new 18-month agreement with DirecTV after a contract dispute that saw the company pulling out the previous 4 pay-per-views from No Mercy to the Rumble, with the rest of the business report saw Linda announcing plans to run 16 total pay-per-view shows in 2002, coming off the eventual brand split, along with WrestleMania 18 being sold out for the Toronto Skydome, with ticket sales for the event breaking the all-time record set at the Houston Astrodome last year as the biggest gate in company history, with Raw next seeing a major heat angle building up the Flair vs Undertaker match, with Taker after challenging Flair twice and being turned down, attempting to change his mind, with him taking out former Horseman Arn Anderson to build the hype for Flair's response, with him yet to arrive to the building, followed by Curt Hennig vs Chris Jericho going 9 minutes for the undisputed title, with the match being placed midway through the second hour, picking up over 500,000 viewers to a near-show high 4.9 rating, with an unusual viewing pattern for the show tonight, seeing the first hour opening big to outdraw the usually higher-rated second, as unlike last Monday when the second hour jumped big to the most watched hour since August following the strong first hour. This week saw the broadcast dropping from 6.4 to 6.1 million viewers as the show went on, with the Jericho Angle match seeing Kane interfering for the finish to lead to Jericho retaining the title. After hyping a confrontation with Rock despite him not being advertised for the show tonight, with him not set to return until at least the post-March 4th Raw, Hogan entered Rock's locker room to see him continuing the build to the match while Rock is off television cutting a promo on a Rock cardboard cutout, saying that unlike Hogan, who has been on top for decades, Rock is a fad that's gonna be forgotten in 10 to 20 years. Responding to the marketing of the WrestleMania match as the Battle of the Legends, saying that Rock needs to thank him for agreeing to wrestle him at Mania as he found him a worthy opponent and would not work with a nobody, closing the promo telling Rock that he's gonna find out the difference between a wannabe and an icon in 3 weeks, with Rock's current targeted return date set for the live SmackDown broadcast from San Antonio on March 7th, 2 days after flying back from the 3-day overseas tour, as Raw after taking 2 commercial breaks in the final quarter along with an Angle on location which saw the APA going to referee Tim White's Friendly Tap Bar in Providence to be attacked by Billy and Chuck, seeing the entrances of the Austin vs. Perfect main event taking place a minute from the top of the hour, with the full match set to take place past 11 p.m. in the overrun. Steve Austin vs. Curt Hennig went 5 minutes in the main event to see Austin going over clean with a stunner, bumping the 8-minute overrun 600,000 viewers back to close the show with a 4.8 rating, and after bringing it out in the opening segment, Scott Hall came back out to reveal a wheelbarrow filled with cinder blocks, setting up the post-match angle with a 3-on-1 nWo beatdown on Austin, with Hall laying him out by smashing a cinder block on his knee to get his heat back after the show-long chase on SmackDown last Thursday, as Raw after the huge numbers for the 2 TV shows over the past week, dropping from the over 6 months high viewership on the night, but while maintaining the rating bump from last Monday to draw another 4.7 rating.